with me today.
That's about all we're going to be able to do. Anyway, he will be here. How are you doing? How's
Doing
camp
great.
so far?
Doing great. Obviously, this time of year, everybody's excited getting a group together. And we've got a few new faces, so you're trying to get them integrated into our programs and what we do, and getting them as comfortable as quick as we can. So it's a fun time of year. As I am every year, I'm excited about our team and the prospects for where it can go. And we've got very high expectations. So, we'll get George Kirby on the mound today and get his first spring training outing under his belt.
Almost through the first no-hitter in 40 years. Yesterday.
40 years?
Rick Riz told us 40 years.
Riz would know.
Langston in 1984.
Wow.
And that crew threw a no-hitter. You went 7 2/3 yesterday.
Yes, we did. We threw the ball really well. Our guys have been very aggressive, starting with Luis Castillo, his first spring outing. I thought he looked great. We're moving in the right direction. Our pitching staff did an unbelievable job last year. And, it's really what spring training is about. You try to get your messaging across to guys, and I think we've earned the reputation now when new players or players come to our organization for the first time. They've done their homework on us, and for whatever reason, they think we've got some secret sauce, and we really don't. We're just very consistent in our messaging. We believe in it, and we do not waver from it.
Is that a sign that Luis is starting opening day?
Luis will be one of our best 5 starting pitchers we have this year, Mike. Yeah, we'll get to that in a few more outings, but okay. He looks good so far.
He really how much easier is it to be a manager when you know that you're throwing Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, and then the 2 young kids after that? How much easier does that make your job?
Well, it starts with pitching, and that's never going to change in our game. As much as the game changes and evolves and how you value runs and position players, it's all about pitching and run prevention. And we're very fortunate. We've got good young starting pitching. We have great arms out of the bullpen, which is really a credit to our scouting department, our front office, and the ability to bring these guys in and give us real guys to work with.
We watched Bryce Miller throw a bullpen over here yesterday, and actually not just watching Bryce, I was enjoying watching the 20 people that were gathered around watching Bryce and how many of them were his teammates. George was there, and Brian Wu was there, and Travis Kuhn was. I mean, it was a huge gaggle of guys that had all gathered just to watch him. How helpful and beneficial is that, and how unique is that across the sport?
Well, I think you've seen that started to happen probably a little bit in last spring training, and Robbie Ray had a lot to do with that. He's no longer here, but just like taking interest in your teammate and what he's doing, and maybe you see something you can pass along, or maybe you pick up something from him. And it's funny you say that with Bryce out there, and if you get a chance to be around Bryce Miller, he is kind of a magnet. People, gravitate towards him because of his personality, and it's really unique for a young player like that he can reach so many different facets of our clubhouse. The different pockets of guys based on that. He's authentic. He is Big Tex for a reason. It's Texas through and through, and you see it come out every day. I love it. I love having him stop in my office. Every day he's got something crazy. Yeah, I signed up today, Skip. I'm going to pitch. Okay, you're in there. Go get him. That's just the way he is. But it's great to see that kind of culture taking hold and guys really caring about each other.
48 hours in, so it's really early for us being here. But just walking around, Scott, this feels like a group of workers.
Yeah, I think that's very perceptive. Our guys like to work. They're focused on getting better. And it's up to us as a coaching staff to make sure we continue to challenge these guys. And there's no lack of effort there. Right. The coaches that we have, the amount of hours we put in that you don't see out on the field, what's happening in the office and in the coach's room, and putting player plans together and how to get all of these guys better. And not just the 26 guys that we're going to break with, but we know we're going to use about 50-some players this year. It happens every year. And last year, prime example, Brian Wu and Bryce Miller were guys that we were just kind of scratching the surface on, and lo and behold, they play a huge part in our season. So it's really important.
I was with Peyton and Marvin, and they were the hardest workers in our organization. That's why they won every single year. Your best players are your hardest workers. They also, especially Marvin, knew when it was time to work and when it wasn't. Is there still a little learning curve with Julio? Because he just strikes me as a guy that's all he wants to do, and maybe the little hand right now is something to just, slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, Julio's in a great spot, and I know, he's a little disappointed. He put so much work in the offseason, and the hand flared up a little bit, but he feels good, really good today. He'll get in the cage today. He'll hit off the tee in there, get some flips. Not a ton of volume, but just make sure he feels good, and he'll progress up to probably getting on the field here tomorrow and some velo, and be in a game, I would suspect, this weekend at some point.
He didn't have a bad year last year,
No.
obviously. I mean, he's fourth in the MVP voting, and we saw him at some point, 17 of 25. I mean, the talent is just off the charts. But by his own admission, it wasn't the year he was hoping to have, and it didn't start off that well, wasn't as consistent, didn't have some of those big moments that maybe the team expected. As from our angle, I think about the pressure on him last year, hosting the All-Star game, which seemed to be in so many ways all about him. He's growing into being a superstar. The circle's got to get bigger and bigger. And I see him now, and the circle seems maybe a little smaller. And I noticed him outside yesterday playing catch with Ichiro for 15 minutes, another guy who knows what it's like to be a star at that level. How is his mentality coming into this season?
He's maturing, and he's matured quite a bit, and you can talk about it, but he has to kind of go through it and live it himself. I know what I was like at 22 years old. Now he's 23 this year. You're learning. You're constantly learning, and I think it's pretty perceptive of you. He is shrinking in his circle, which I think is a good thing. You know, you don't need too many voices. Certainly you want to be respect all the people that can help you, but you do have to shrink, and I think he's done a good job of that. He has been super focused this offseason. Very disappointed in how our season ended and the way it ended last year. Not just him, but our entire team. I mentioned it early in camp. I think this is a very hungry group, and the reason I said it is because, to Brock's point, these guys are working. They want to address things that maybe they need to get better on, or how we came up short as a team. And Julio's at the top of the list as far as that goes. He wants to be the best player that Julio Rodriguez can be, and I don't think he's there yet, and I think he knows that.
Was it in his 20s that Brant Brown told us he was his comedic
Yeah, the comic relief.
Brant
He
Brown.
said you were very serious,
No.
and he was the comic relief, which makes me very concerned about just how serious you were at that point.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I was very, very I was boring. I'm still boring. But, I've learned a lot through the years. The one thing I wish I go back and, you talk to guys who've had, decent careers or long careers. And, for me, I wish I would have had more fun. Yeah. And I think I said that to you guys right when I got this job. I was going to make it fun. I was going to make it light. The game is so hard. The season is so long that you do need to loosen up and have a little bit more fun. I wish I would have done more of that as a player, but I can't go back, so I'm going to have a good time as a manager.
Is it weird, though, that you're doing it by just stealing from Pete Carroll with the three-point shots here? I mean, we thought you'd come up with your own original stuff, but instead you just kind of steal from those around you? What's up with that?
That's what all the great ones do, right? You take ideas, and really in honor of Pete, I thought we would break out the three-point contest. So it has, brought a new, a little different excitement to our thing. And really it got spurred by the, Steph Curry and the gal who shot Sabrina, at the All-Star game. Guys were talking about it. I'm like, yeah, we can do that here. Let's make it happen. So lo and behold, I've got some awesome coaching assistants that were able to put some time in and make it happen. The guys are engaged. It's fun to watch.
Any of the coaches done that yet?
Oh, yeah, there's a coaches group. So we're divided up into four groups.
Okay.
There's the position players, the pitchers, the coaches, and then the support staff. So Franklin Gutierrez shot today for the coaches group, and I'm sad to report the coaches are in last place right now.
He has nice form.
Goody always looks good,
Always
Salky.
looks good.
I've never seen Goody look bad,
No
even
kidding.
shooting a basketball.
Looks great.
It's very pure.
Just
It looks good.
Didn't go in.
Yeah.
You took the world tour this offseason, and it's such a cool story. It feels like we talked to Jerry, a couple of weeks ago when he used the phrase find a way. That became a mantra, he said, for the baseball operations group this offseason. Was that your part in finding a way to go and have these serious, transparent conversations?
I think it's important that this is something I've done almost every year, and then COVID hit. I didn't do it for a couple of years as far as traveling around. So it was something that was on my radar very early, when the season ended the way it did. Hey, I got to get out and see some guys. And I had joked with Julio, I will see you at some point this offseason. I want to see what your workouts are like. And then, as our offseason got going, it was, there was a negative tone to it. And I wanted to make sure that our players understood best as I could at that time where we were headed. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know how it was going to play out. But, I think it comes a point you got to trust people and believe in people. And you have to be upfront and honest with players. I said to you guys from the first time I think I ever did an interview with you that, I'm about being honest with the guys and being as transparent as I can with our players. And I think we were at a point where we needed to do that, especially with our core guys. And they responded very well. And I think it's carried over to this spring. The way our offseason played out, we've added some very impactful players into our lineup. We needed to maybe have a little bit different look to our offensive team. And we have I feel very confident it's going to play out well for us, and I think our players, the ones that were here last year, see that those additions as guys have a chance to be key contributors for us, and we needed it. So we're in a good spot. We have a long ways to go, and there'll be some ups and downs along the way, but I like our team. I like our team's wired. This team, like I keep saying, they got something to prove.
How much did you prioritize making sure no arms walked out the door? That through this offseason of finding a way and everything, and I am sure everyone and their mother called about Bryce and then Brian and Logan at the trade. Like everybody wants your arms. How much of a priority was it for you that they didn't walk?
Well, I think it's really important. You have to know who you are. I talk it with our players all the time. Know who you are. Know what your strengths are. I think we have to do that as an organization. We've done an unbelievable job. Our coaches at the minor league level, our scouts, all over the country, like scouring and finding talented arms, and then getting those kids to the big leagues. You have to know we're always going to be built with pitching and defense. We play in T-Mobile Park, and in April and May, it can be challenging to score a lot of runs there. It evens out in June, July, and August, but early in the year it's tough, and to lean on that pitching, it's who we are. So, I certainly did not want to lose any of the guys, and even with Robbie and Marco moving on, those are tough. But we're in a position because we've done a good job in developing young pitchers that we felt good about the guys we have, and we want to hang on to them.
I appreciate the optimism of June. That's nice. I appreciate that you think it's going to be nice in June.
Hey, I get in the water. I'm in Lake Washington in June. I will get in the water in June. Yes, I do it every year. Early June. I'm in. No wetsuit. No wetsuit, Sulky. You got to suck it up. You get out there. We have a day game. The sun's out. I can see the mountain. I'm in the water.
Very tough. As
yep,
you can
gotta
tell,
go.
Scott's very tough. That's where all that seriousness came from in his 20s. All right, so that's a real thing, right? It's real that the weather is different in Seattle. It's real that park is harder to hit in. And, we talked to Mitch yesterday about it. I was actually on this morning, and he said, yeah, it can get in guys' heads, especially the home team, more than the road team, because you're doing it game after game after game. Tell me how Brant Brown factors into that and sort of changing the philosophy to have more success offensively during those cold months.
You have to find a way to win games in different ways. And, maybe you'll see, that you're going to play the low-scoring games early in the year. You know that. And you can't just sit and rely on hoping somebody hits a 2 or 3 run homer to get you over the top or to increase the lead or whatever. So be able to move runners, to be able to strike out less with guys on base, really key. And we've talked about it a lot. We wanted to get more consistent with our lineup up and down, and hopefully that helps play out. I also think we're talking about it a little bit more than we have in the past. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, how are we going to combat that and not get frustrated with it? Oh, man, he hit that ball at 98 and it was at this launch angle. That's a hit in 29 other parks, but you know what? It wasn't tonight. What do we have to do to win the game tonight? And whatever the game calls for, there are our players equipped to do that, and that's what we're talking about more in spring training.
And those conversations would go on behind the scenes where guys would talk that way and feel that way.
Oh, all the time. Everybody on social media, oh, that's a hit or that's a home run in 25 of the 30 parks. It doesn't help. You got to play in the elements that are there to be. You got to deal with it, just like in football. If it's rainy and windy, what are you going to do? Not play hard? You got to figure out a way.
Does having Mitch Haniger back help with that? A, the success that he's had in that ballpark, and B, maybe some of the struggles he had last year in a park that's even harder to hit in San Francisco.
Yeah, Mitch brings a lot of things back. Certainly he's got track record here, and he's had very big seasons here, so he knows how to ride through that. And I think he's much more open to talk and willing to share his opinions maybe than he has at any other point in his career. And that happens when you get a little bit older and a little bit wiser, and you've been in some other places, and you realize that maybe this is a good thing we have going here. We've got a good team, and when it's time for him to speak up, he's speaking up more than he ever has, and that's a real positive.
We're looking at Ty France right now, and I think to some that may come down here, quite honestly, fans, they may not recognize. I mean, really, he is so much leaner, and I guess that fits in that silo of work and the work that he did even before he got here. What have you seen from Ty here early on?
I've seen a different focus from Ty France, and I think it goes to the work he put in the offseason. Mm-hmm. When you spend that much time and energy going in to kind of retransform his body, he's made some adjustments with his swing. He's in a different mindset than he was maybe a year ago because it wasn't easy for him last year. He had a rough year.
Yep.
And we've seen other players come through here that have made some adjustments, and they get back on track rather quickly, and I think that's where he's headed. So it's exciting to see players put in the amount of effort and work there. Now you want them to get the immediate results, but there's no guarantee. Right. You have to ride it out. Yep. We saw what it did for J.P. Crawford in the season. But it didn't start great for J.P. last year. Last year at this time in spring training, I'm looking at J.P. and I'm like, oh boy, I don't know how this is going to work. It doesn't look great. It's not clean. But he just went through so much. He understood his swing more, how his body was moving better, and maybe moving a little bit differently. And then all of a sudden it clicked, and wham, he just took off. And I'm hoping that's what we get from Ty. So he's key. He's key to our offense. He can really hit. We've seen it. He can drive in runs. When he's right, the ball is carrying out of the ballpark. He plays really good defense, and he's a good dude. On top of it, he fits really well with our team. So a key part of our offense moving forward is what he can do this year.
What is your plan for the corner outfield spots this year?
Yeah, we've got options, and we haven't always had options. I think with the obviously Dom Canzone, that we picked up last year midseason, Luke Raley coming over from Tampa, and what Haney can do out there. You're working with those three guys moving. The center fielder, we're pretty well set on who's going to play center, Mike. So we're good there. But
that's why I said the corner outfield.
Yeah,
I feel like you know what you're doing in center.
I think those guys, you can, some guys are going to match up better than others. I think where Mitch is at, it's critically important for us if we can, keep him available, keep him healthy. So he may need a few days off. And in the past, when a day off for Mitch Haniger was automatic DH. Well, we have a DH now when it's really capable of doing a good job there. So it could be a complete off day, or, there's a matchup that favors him and he comes in the seventh inning and goes from there. But, we'll manage that, as we go through the season. You can never have too many good players. And I do think that all of them will benefit through the entire season. And that's really what we're shooting for here. It's how many games can we win, not how many games can one guy play.
Mm-hmm. I know so much goes, we've learned this behind the scenes, into every lineup, every matchup, all of these conversations. How much and how many man hours will go into keeping this team healthy?
You talk about it all the time. And you need a little luck.
Yeah.
You do. You catch, crazy things happen throughout the course of a season, whether it's a hit by pitch or they run into somebody on the field or they're running the bases, something weird happens. Just some things you can't control.
Yep.
But trying to stay in front of it, be proactive. If you've got something that's dragging, your hamstrings tight, whatever, we have guys that we can put in there, and it's not a dramatic drop-off than maybe what we've had in the past from experience, from what the guy's capable of doing. So you want to be able to use the entire roster a little bit more efficiently, and that's up to me and the coaches to make sure that happens. So it's a challenge I'm looking forward to.
It struck me, looking at the end game numbers, you had 3 guys throw over 190 innings last year. There was only one other team in baseball that had 2, and I want to say there were only 12 other guys. Like 3 of the 15 were right here. Mm-hmm. Is that sustainable?
I do think it is, and I know everybody complains that we don't leave our starting pitchers in longer. They're going so good. We let our starters go deeper than anybody else in baseball because we trust them, and they're really good. And they have a pretty good way of keeping the pitch count intact, so we're not taxing them too much where it affects their next couple outings.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll stay with the same philosophy there. And you love to see our guys go out, give us a chance to win when they take the mound, and hopefully they can take you into the 7th inning and then turn it over to a really good bullpen. So we're not going to change much on that. You just have to watch the workload in between some of those outings. And I think Logan's learned how to manage that. He doesn't go down and throw a 45-pitch bullpen between outings. Now he might go down there and touch and feel 15, 20 pitches, knowing save your bullets for your game day. And George is learning that as well.
Speaking of that bullpen, do we have any update on Matt Brash?
Yeah, we will hear more in the next couple days on where Matt is at. Obviously, he's a key part. He's one of the best bullpen arms in the league. He felt some soreness the other day. We're being very cautious with that.
Where is that soreness?
It's in his arm.
Okay.
I answered your question, didn't I?
You did.
It's his right arm, too.
It's in his throwing arm.
Yes.
Forearm? Arm, not shoulder?
Arm,
not shoulder.
It's arm.
I was looking at your roster, and you might end up with 50% new players on opening day this year compared to last year.
Wow.
Now, some of those guys joined the team last year, Miller and Wu, but compared to the beginning of last year, it may be right around 12 to 14 guys that weren't here on opening day last year. Some of them came this offseason, Garver and Polanco probably being the 2 most notable of those names. What have you seen from those 2 guys specifically so far?
They're very professional, as you would expect. They've been in the league for a while, and they've had success in the league, so they have routines. They have some things they believe very strongly in. I think with Mitch Garver, he's been very open. He likes talking, hitting in the game, and the fact that he's a catcher, he's involved with our guys there and what's going on. So Garv's got opinions on a lot of different things, which is very welcome. Love it.
Yeah, you love guys who are super opinionated.
Except guys that are on that side of the mic.
Sorry, just checking.
The guys in the clubhouse love it. But Polo, that's the nickname for Polanco. I think people get used to that. But Polo is much more reserved as advertised. Talking to the people in Minnesota, Nelson Cruz played with him a couple years. Again, very professional. And again, I can't even imagine what it's like. He was with one organization for 14 years.
Yep.
Now he's got to put a different jersey on.
Yep.
And it takes a while. And I told him that day one, be you. Settle in. He doesn't miss anything in a morning meeting. He's paying attention to his teammates. I'm getting him engaged more in that. So eventually that's going to come out. He's a really good player.
I didn't even think about it. He's a 10-5 guy, right? So he had to okay this trade, right?
Is it 10 in the big leagues yet? I'm not sure. He spent...
Oh, because some of those, I see, were
Yes.
just in the organization.
In the organization, he was there, and he signed as a 16-year-old with Minnesota.
Got it.
Last thing for me, Mariners fans are going to come down here over the next couple weeks. Thanks to our friends at Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of nonstop flights. Unbelievable. They come down here. Who are a couple young guys? We saw, I think, Ty Pete out here. Was that Celestine we saw out
I
here?
think so. I think that was Celestine.
Who are some of the...
Is Celestine the guy who looks like, he's got the world's greatest baseball body?
It's really good.
Yeah. Okay, then, that must have been him.
First of all, let me say, the fans, and there's already been a ton of people down, Mariners fans from Seattle, and young kids run around getting their autographs. There is no better time than spring training. The players are so accessible. They're walking between fields. You can get, autographs between it's Ichiro, it's Julio, it's JP, it's George, Logan, The Rock. They're all here. So, and the fans, I can't say enough, like the support that we get. And our fan base has become very passionate about this team.
Yes.
And, the expectations are very high. I love all of that stuff. I don't want that to change at all. So the more people that can come down and enjoy it, come on down. I think when you get a chance to talk about young players, we're probably going to see one in a game tomorrow. Colt Emerson is a kid that's really excited a lot of people. He was our first-round pick from last year. He's only 18 years old. We'll probably put him in behind JP to play 3 or 4 innings in tomorrow's game. He's a really interesting player. You mentioned Ty Pete. We've got a number of really up-and-coming position players that we developed, so heavily on pitching here the last 4 or 5 years, and those are the big difference makers that have shown up to the big leagues. The next wave of players, and some kids in our camp are off to a good start. Tyler Locklear, the big hitting first baseman, really interesting player. Cole Young, shortstop, second base. I'm not sure where he ends up yet, but he can hit. It's a left-handed bat. Those kids are off to great starts this spring, which is great. So fans get an opportunity to get up close with those players and get to know them a little bit. It's really a good environment down here.
It's fun. It really is. You seem like you're in a happy mood.
You're going to ask him about all the hit and run.
Oh, yeah, you guys are going to hit and run a lot this year.
We don't hit and run, Mike. I've been there 8 years. We will bunt more this
Small
year.
ball. We'll play
I
a little
know.
small
I
ball.
heard you're going to play. Yeah,
I see.
I tried to get Brock
in
to ask you about hitting and running.
162 games. Will I see one suicide squeeze in 162 games?
No.
Probably not.
Right here.
Safety squeeze.
Remember,
Safety
I like to
squeeze.
signal stuff to you when I sit
Safety
in the stands at
squeeze.
these
Safety
games.
squeeze.
Yeah, you got the first and third. Maybe not be a great matchup. We read the ball down, and
Yeah.
the guy from third takes off, and everybody goes, "Oh, great play!" Blah blah blah.
You have some guys on the team who can bunt?
Yeah, we do. A couple. We have a couple that can bunt.
Just a couple?
Yeah, just a couple.
Just-
we
I mean,
won't
they
have-
don't learn it that much coming up, right?
They don't. It's some of the things that we talk about in spring training. I have let guys know, don't be shocked. I've never put on a bunt in a spring training game. And I told their entire
Do
team.
you plan to?
Yes, I do.
Ooh.
Don't get shocked. And everybody's like, I can't believe he's making me bunt. I said, if one at-bat is going to screw up your 2024 season, let me know right now, and we'll find a place for you to play.
Do you remember when Brock tried to bunt off you and he was telling you all about how his Little League coach taught him how to bunt?
Yeah, Brock is
that's a
uncoachable.
problem.
If you didn't know that, Soggy, Brock is uncoachable.
I've been
It's-
saying that
it's
for
very
years.
clear. But
Scott, thank you. This is fun. Great to sit down with you and get ready for this season. It's just great being down here. We appreciate it. Good luck.
sounds good, guys.
All right,
Thanks.
There
Take
you
care.
go. There's Scott
We'll see you.
Servais. We'll come right back.